Are you ready to talk?
Oh yeah, I'm ready to talk.
Well, okay, let's talk.
Just settle down. We're gonna talk with you. We're gonna talk with you now. Going around.
Let's talk.
Here on the Brown Skin Chit Chat Show. Skin Chit
Let's talk.
Show.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome
Hey.
to the Brown Skin Chit Chat Show. We have Casey and Monique and a special guest today, Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Hey, Lise.
Hey, everyone. We today are going to talk about stay-at-home moms and what that looks like now that the kids are grown and, fully functional on their own. Okay, we're going to discuss with Lisa stay at home. And so, Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm not a stay-at-home mom no more, even though I work remote. But I'm not. Yes, I was a stay-at-home mom, but I had a job. I worked, in the beginning, two city jobs actually, from one to the next. And then I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom after I got married and after I was pregnant with my second child. Then I stayed home for a long time and raised them, and then eventually just went back into the working field about full time. No, about 11 years ago.
Okay. How
11
long
years.
were you stay at home for?
Well, I stayed at home for 20 something years. For 20 something
Wow.
years. Yeah, I stayed at home for 20, but it was a mutual decision. It was because childcare would have took my whole check. Childcare was so expensive. So it was basically either you're going to make a decision to stay home, or pay childcare and just pay and car fare. That would have been basically my whole check. So we made a decision for me to stay home. Now I did have two older ones were in school. I have a bonus daughter, and they were in school, and then my youngest son was home with me, and then when he went into school, I still was home. He was diagnosed with a medical condition, so it was hard for me. I needed. I kind of. I also had my daughter too at the same time. 2 years after I was home with him, then I got pregnant with my daughter. So they're like right back and back. So I already had a child home. So even though he went into school, she was home. And then I end up getting a job to go back to work. And what happened was it was 2001. 9/11 happened. So now I'm working, excited. I'm going back to work full time. And then I would take the kids to school in the morning. And then my husband would come pick them up in the afternoon. And then when 9/11 happened, he had to work 12-hour shifts because he worked for PD at the time. So he could not pick them up. So then I had to pick them up. So after doing that for a month, my job was like, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep leaving early every day to go pick them up. So I had to make a decision. Either they were going to let me go or I had to leave. So I had to leave. So that means I had to come home, stay home again, pull my daughter out of daycare. And then I stayed home for another year until she was able to go to school with her brothers. Now I'm looking for work again. So then there became an issue. My son would get sick a lot, relapse, get sick because he would get sick from whoever's sick in the classroom. And then he would stay home for 2 weeks at a time until he got better. So it was like, how am I going to work a full time job and this is happening?
Right.
So I end up having to, not only that, they were kind of like not trying to work with me when it came to his school, even though I was hands on, always there. They weren't trying to work with me. So at some point, I was like, you know what? I'm taking him out. I'm going to take him out of school. And I took him out and I homeschooled him from fifth grade on to graduating high school. And then I ended up taking him out. And when I took him out, I homeschooled him. And then I took my daughter out about a year or two later. And they both were homeschooled until the end, until, high school. And but it was a lot being home, and not working all this time, homeschooling. um Not homeschooling, that was scary. I did it with a lot of people, not so much supportive in a sense. I shouldn't say weren't not supportive, but they were supportive, but it was always the question of, oh, you sure? Because socialization,
Mm-hmm.
the kids need socialization, but I had them involved in things. They were in martial arts, they were still acting and doing those things, acting, modeling, whatever they were doing. In that sense, I had them always involved in things. I had them going to the MoMA, which is a big museum in Manhattan, and they were part of art classes, and they were always involved in something. So it's not like they were not around their peers. They were, not just like in a school setting. So
So what, Lisa, what did your typical day look like with the kids
when when I was homeschooling, or when they were little.
when they were little?
Well, when they were little, my oldest son was already in school. So we would get up, I would take him to school with my younger one. Or I could have been pregnant at
No,
that.
let me rephrase my question. What did your day look like? Like,
My
what
day
did,
was filled with children.
like you had to get up
Child.
way earlier than everybody,
Getting up in the morning, getting them ready, getting ready to go to school. Then you have to get the one that's not going to school ready too, as well. And then getting on the bus with the two little ones to get to the school, drop them off, come back with the little one. Then we start our day, breakfast or whatever we're gonna do that day. Now, when I had my the third one came along, it was the same routine basically. Get up and then take my oldest one to school, and I'm coming back with the two of them. Spending my day with them, like teaching them or whatever we did for the day. But to be honest with you, they were so busy in modeling and acting at that time. We were constantly like in the city
Mm-hmm.
all the time, always going on go sees and um, always going on something.
So it was
Just
school, it
about
was getting
every
up,
day. So it was school,
doing
taking
all of
the oldest one to school, and sometimes going straight to the city because they had an interview and they had this and they had that, constantly, all the time, and then coming back in time enough to pick the other one up from school. And then even sometimes I would have to go back to the city because it might have been something for him to do.
Oh
So
wow.
that happened a lot too,
and this is all
because
in New York, catching buses
all
and
in New
trains.
York. No, not at that time. Actually, to be honest with you, my husband was home because he had hurt himself on the job. So we kind of lived in the car, going
Mm.
back and forth and back and forth. From the time we dropped them off, we're like constantly in the car going back to the city, then rushing back to go pick them up from
Mm.
school, and sometimes going back to the city, or then just picking them up and going home. But once my younger son went to school, then it was just me and my younger daughter home, you know. And then at some point, um, I actually started working at home. I mean, working at their school to offset the tuition. I worked at their school for a little bit, and then my daughter would either stay with my mom. So that lasted a little while until they got into another school, and then I end up homeschooling after that. So it was like a back and forth. I always was trying to find odds and ends jobs to, bring in some money. But there was a lot of times where I was home and, it was just me and the kids and sacrificing a lot.
Yeah. There's a misconception of stay-at-home moms, right? It's this whole housewife of whatever, thinking that the husband makes this excessive amount of money, which allows the mother to stay at home and relax. And then there's other realities where you're staying at home because of financial reasons, and maybe you're not as rich, in the area of financial,
Mhm.
because you guys lived in, I don't know how long you lived in a one bedroom or whatever. But it's a lot of sacrifices that you had to make. Tell us about some of the sacrifices for you financially, as far as shopping and your own feminine supplies that you had to rely on one income for.
So that mostly it hit me more so when I was homeschooling because now the two of them were home and now I'm definitely not working. I'm not working and I'm totally dependent on my husband and his one income. So this is different because it's one income, but he's not making enough to be able to say, here, this is your allowance. You do this, you can have this is your what you're gonna do. That wasn't the case. There was a lot of times, I would say a lot of times that I was without having my own money to do a lot of things. You know, like I was saying, like sometimes we'd be in the street and it was like, make sure you take whatever from the house because I don't have no money to buy anything in the street. We don't, we, it's, it, thank God for my mom hitting me off with some money sometimes or whatever, because it just wasn't enough for me to have like a set allowance or something like that. Mm-mm. No, so we went without. I mean, I went without. I had to sacrifice a lot. Toiletries. I mean, I got the stuff, of course, but it was a lot of sacrifice, and it was very, very hard. Very, very hard at
I
times.
can understand. Yeah, because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, trying to depend on somebody else and knowing what the financial status is to ask for anything
You
extra, or
don't
we're
want
out.
to ask. You don't
Yeah,
want to ask. I'm the type of person. It killed me to ask. It killed me to have to ask him. It killed me to have to ask my mother to help me. Like I'm a grown woman with children,
right.
married. Like, I don't want to ask my mother to help me, but I had to ask my mother to help me a lot. You know, I should be. I felt all the time. I felt very, um, what I say, less than a daughter or something to have to ask her
Mm.
where I should be doing for her. I felt at this age, but I'm asking.
What was her like when you told her, hey, this is what, me and my husband are planning to do, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. What was her reaction to that?
Well, my mother came from that generation where, worked because she worked all the time. She
Hmm.
worked hard, and she always was like, "Whatever you get, save some money. I don't care if it's $5, Lisa. Put it to the side." I would do it, but I would find myself in a bind where I needed to. Whatever I did save up, I had to use it.
You
Hmm.
saved the
So
five, but you needed the 20.
you know what I'm saying. And
Right.
also, I kind of felt like I kept always felt like I was not living up to what she expected me to be
Mm.
or her standards of
Mhm.
whatever. And then I couldn't come to her in a sense and be like, say how I was feeling all the time because she
Mhm.
sided with him. We meet him being
Mm.
her husband.
Mm.
Well, he works, he works hard and he works a good job and he's da, 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 and he's doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but hey, over here, what about
Right.
me?
Yeah. Yeah. Stay
You
at
know,
home moms works just as hard as the person going off.
Harder.
that is
Yeah.
that.
Harder.
It's not looked at as that. It's
Yeah.
looked
Harder.
like you're home all day. So if you're home all day, you have the luxury of really like sitting back, putting your feet up, and you're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Right.
reality is, when you walked in my home at any given time, my home was clean.
Mm.
And every day they had a full meal on the stove and a dessert. And this was 7 days a week.
And you
Right.
don't get off at 4, right? You didn't get off at
No.
Yeah.
4.
There's no
And then
You didn't
there's
get off.
You know, the one that's
There's
coming
no
home from
break.
school, there's homework, or there's this, or even homeschooling. You know, you can incorporate homeschooling 7 days a week, however you want it throughout the week. So that's ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was just a lot until I realized, and I was talking to other girls, women, and it was like, you cook 7 days a week, girl. So then I cut it down to 6 or 5. You know, we're ordering pizza on this day, but yes, I really did spoil them in a lot of ways. And
I
then
don't know
to
if you
some women,
spoiled
to
them. You
some
were just
women,
a good
to
mom who's
some
trying.
women, they would look at it and say that I was spoiled to be allowed to stay home, even though it was
Mm,
hard. I
Well, I
got
think
those
that
comments
goes
too.
to
I got those comments
everything.
too. You're spoiled too. Like if your husband allows you to stay home, my husband would be like, you better get to work. But I understand that. But there was also a sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sacrificing my
what
life.
I'm hearing you say though, Lisa, is that it wasn't like, hey, pick me, I want to stay home all day with these kids. It was more of like, this was what I needed to do for our family. This is the sacrifice I needed to make for our family. I think there's so many, people, especially in this economy, in this world now, that are, living and breathing the same thing. They're trying to make a decision. Do I stay home with my kids because healthcare, which is just getting ready to go up, right? Healthcare, daycare, all of those things, they cost so much. And when you think, I'm going to take my whole check and put it towards daycare or put it towards this other thing, can I stay home with my kids? And I make sure I dictate what type of, education they get. It sounds great, and it sounds noble, but it's a lot of hard work.
It's a lot
mhm.
of
And
hard work.
it's not a work that you get to turn on and off,
Mm.
you don't commute home to this and like on the way home, you can read a book or anything like that. Like, it's not like, okay, well, you've had a hard day. And so, I just need 5-10 minutes just to get myself together. And then I jump back in. It doesn't work like that.
No.
Being a stay-at-home mom, I can only imagine is just, it's a constant thing. And you do what you do, you make the decisions that you make. And this case is what I'm hearing, not because that's something that you wanted to do, because that's something that you felt like you needed to do.
Needed
Mhm.
to
Do, you
do.
know?
Now, I enjoyed being home with my children. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed being with them. Um, I say we grew up together because I was
Mm,
young.
Yeah.
You know, I had my first child at 22, but I became a mom at 19
mhm.
to my oldest bonus daughter. So it's not like, it was hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't. That those are sacrifices I made from 19 years old.
Yeah. It's a sacrifice because number one, it takes you out of the working market, right? So the skills that you may have had when you started, you don't have anymore. And so all of your investment and sacrifices, instead of going into a company for 20 years, they're going into your family, into your children. And then it just becomes a sacrifice for you because what did you gain for yourself, for your independence and for yourself out of this whole experience? Outside of your children, your husband, and your family, what did you gain out of this for yourself, if anything?
Well, it wasn't independence.
Mm,
I was
that,
very dependent. Very dependent. I, to be honest with you, most of the time I felt like I was one of the children
mm,
Hmm.
because I was dependent upon. I depended upon him.
mm,
Actually depended upon my mother. I never felt like I was an adult, even though the numbers said that I were.
mm,
I really never felt like I was an adult. I felt like I was an adult when I got this job that I'm currently at now, because then I'm able to. Um, it's enough. I'm making enough to if I could kind of take care of myself, not totally, because everything's expensive, so it's easier with two. But
mm.
that's what made me feel more like that I was kind of like an adult. Although
Or
let's
did
face
it
it, I
make you
felt
feel?
like,
I'm sorry, Lisa. Did it make you feel independent, now that you're
I felt
working?
more independent then, yes. If that
Okay.
if that relates to being an adult, I guess. But I
Okay.
still, even when I worked retail, because before I got this job, I worked retail, and I was retail. I was, and I worked my way from sales, a cashier to a supervisor in both retail places, right? But
Hmm.
still, it's retail, and people kind of look at retail, if you're not a manager, I guess,
Right.
like it's retail.
Right.
Like it's kind of like a part-time job.
Right. Right. This is
That,
just something in the
exactly.
meantime
But
while you're
that
going to
is
school.
that's on
Hard
your
work.
feet. That's constant lifting, pulling, moving. It's a lot.
Most people couldn't cut it.
No.
No, and I worked at two different jobs, and then I went into this job. And when I went into the job that I'm at now, this full-time job, I still kept a retail job for about a good 6 months. So I was
So,
working that and going straight to the other job, getting home after 11 o'clock at night, doing it all over again the next day.
Go ahead, Casey. What'd you say?
so now that I'm kind of jumping ahead, that you're working, that at any point did you miss being at home while you're,
Mm.
finding yourself? Did you find yourself while you're at work being frustrated? Like, it's easier to just be at home with my kids or my husband or
No,
whatever, or
I
you
enjoyed
just
being
like,
at work. I enjoyed it. I'm a very social person. So
Mm.
uh-huh.
I like interacting with other people, of course, people of my age or whatever. Not that I'm taken away from being with my children. I enjoyed that too, but I know I needed something for me. And I
Mm,
needed to be with people that were my age,
yeah.
and I like that environment too. I loved it. I loved getting up, going to work, having something to do, something that was mine.
Yeah. What you said was interesting. You said you felt like you and the children were growing up together, which is pretty
Oh, yeah,
strong,
absolutely.
deep. You even 20 years later that you're
Yeah.
still kind of finding yourself is what it sounds like to
I'm
me is that
still finding myself. Yeah,
yeah.
still discovering things about myself that on and discovering and figuring out what I'm capable of and all of that. Still at this age, it's never. I don't think that ever changes though.
No.
Any of us though.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're all evolving and we're growing. I
Yeah.
think that you have made a lot of sacrifices for your family. And in that, what I'm hearing you say is that while it was something that you chose to do, at the same time, you lost a lot of your own independence and individuality as part of that.
Hmm.
But I'm grateful that you're able to reclaim that now, you
Yes.
know, and that you are able to, the story's not over yet. So, you're able to keep writing the ending that you want to see. And so I
Hmm.
encourage you to keep doing that, keep looking for whatever that looks like for you, whether it's a different type of job or just being more creative or doing those things as a older mom of younger children. I find myself missing those days that I had the independence that I used to have, and now I'm able to really spend the time with my kids, but not as much. And I do miss it. I think thank you for coming on here and talking to us about it, because it definitely gives a different perspective,
Oh yeah.
because there are days where I would be at work and be like, oh, I miss my kids and I just be at home with them. And, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I don't know that I or they would survive all day.
All day.
I mean, I did enjoy being with them, even with all the sacrifices and stuff. I even looked forward to like when it was summertime and they would
Yeah.
be home, only because I didn't want to have to get up in the morning and be like, the bus and da, 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 da.
Yeah.
But I look forward to that and just finding things we could do, because I'm very close to them. At the
Yeah.
time, I was very, very close to them. Finding things to do. We have fun together. But again, it doesn't take away the fact that it is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It is a sacrifice. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed homeschooling them. I think homeschooling to me is a good thing if you can do it, and the big takeaway for me again is the children learning who they are without the pressure of the peers.
Mm.
They're learning who they are, you know, and how to walk to the beat of their own drum without any influences. And then being able to be able to teach them what you want to teach them and how you want to teach them, but still staying in the guidelines of the requirements of education, you know.
That's
And then,
yeah.
finding out, then coming, after all of that, they getting older, they got older, of course, and all of that. Then discovering myself now, what
Mm.
I can do, what I'm
Yeah.
creative at, what I can do now. I make the pound cakes, started the pound cake business. So now I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing my book. So I'm, I'm doing me little by little, little
Yes.
by
So
little.
you got to come back on and give us
Yeah.
like, we want an exclusive when the book is done.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yes.
The goal is the end of the year. That's my goal. I procrastinated for so long, but no
That's
more
awesome.
procrastinating.
Yeah, we look forward to that book and bringing you back on. This was such a good talk because, like I said, I've worked most of my life, so I don't know how it feels or understand what it means to be a stay at home mom. The sacrifices that the stay at home mom um, has to do is beyond my comprehension because God bless you, because I don't know if I could even do it. But you've done such a wonderful job with your
Yeah.
grown kids now that they are a great product of, society. They're out doing their own thing. And I just encourage you to do the same for yourself now that you have some time back after you've made so much sacrifice after 20 something years.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience. I mean, but I'm also grateful. I mean, I'm grateful that we made the decision. You know, my husband sacrificed too.
Hmm.
Just to take care of all of us.
Yeah.
It was hard on him as well. So I get it. It was hard on both of us, And so I was not that type to sit back and be like, okay, he's paying all the bills and he's doing everything. I'm just not going to sit here. I would always try to find some kind of way to make money. I sold Tupperware, so I'm going around doing Tupperware shows. If you whatever, I worked in a laundromat. I taught a child with disability how to read and write. I did think and got paid. So I was always trying to figure out ways to bring something in.
Well, you did. You brought a lot in. So we
Yes,
just want to thank you here at our
Absolutely.
chit
you're welcome.
chat.
Yes. Do you have any parting words of wisdom? Someone that may be going through, being a stay at home mom or contemplating, whether or not it's the right decision for her and her family. Any words of wisdom you would like to pass on to them?
Well, if she's contemplating it, if the thought is coming up, then there's a reason why the thought's coming up. I just say, you just have to look at the whole situation and see if that's something you're going to be able to do. If you're going to be willing to be dependent upon someone or have that discussion with whoever your spouse is or your significant other, um, what is it going to look like financially? You know, because that's big.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. But and what's your support going to look like? Because you do need support.
I think that's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
and especially as women, it's hard to ask for it. You even talked about that, right? It's hard to ask for that support, and this is why this platform and, we do what we do as far as like having this podcast, because we do want women to know, that they're not alone in this journey,
Hmm.
that there's a community that they can tap into.
Hmm.
So again, Lisa, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you for being vulnerable and transparent about your journey and sharing that with all of us, and sharing your words of wisdom on this. So really appreciate you you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
We
having
you.
me.
look forward for the end of year for the book.
No
Yes.
problem. Thank you for having me.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Get shout, get shout. Are you ready to talk? Oh yeah, I'm ready to talk.
Come on in,
Well, okay, let's talk.
just settle down. We wanna talk with you. Won't talk with you. That's going around.
Let's talk.
On the Brown Skin Chit Chat Show. Skin Chit
Let's talk.
Show.
Shout.